There is a strange but stubborn truth in history. Every single currency that has ever become the global reserve currency has inevitably collapsed. Some eroded slowly over time, others crashed violently through sudden devaluations, but the outcome never changed. They all ended. The Portuguese Real, the Dutch guilder, the British pound, each one was once the center of the world. Each one was considered indispensable, and each one eventually faded into history. What they share is far more than we tend to think. They all followed the same path, passed through the same stages, made the same mistakes, and most importantly, every single one of them believed this time is different. The US dollar became the world's reserve currency in 1944 at Bretton Woods. Today, the year is 2025. That means the dollar has held this status for roughly 80 years. This number is not random, because history tells us this. The average lifespan of a reserve currency is between 80 and 110 years, and the dollar is no longer at the beginning or even the middle of that cycle. It is moving toward the later stages. What's even more unsettling is this. Nearly all the warning signs that appeared before previous reserve currencies collapsed are now standing right in front of us. This is not a prophecy. It is not a conspiracy theory. It is a recurring economic and political cycle, like mathematics, like human nature. A story about what happens when power, money, and comfort converge. First, let's be clear about one thing. A reserve currency does not simply mean a strong currency. A reserve currency is a currency others are forced to hold. It is the money kept in central bank vaults, the unit in which oil, wheat, and gold are priced, the currency used for international trade. If your currency is the reserve currency, the world has to want your money, and that grants you an extraordinary privilege. This is called the exorbitant privilege, because you can print paper and buy real goods. Other countries must produce. You consume. You run deficits, they finance them. You borrow, but at low interest rates, because they must buy your debt. This is the most powerful economic weapon in history, and every empire has wanted to possess it. But the irony is this. Over time, this weapon also wounds its owner. Every reserve currency story begins the same way, with overwhelming military superiority. But this is not just about having a strong army. The critical factor is control over trade routes. Portugal achieved this in the 15th century. They learned to cross oceans. They sailed around the Cape of Good Hope. They broke Asia-bound trade routes out of Ottoman land control. But what truly made the difference was this. They militarized those trade routes. They built ports, constructed fortresses, armed them with cannons. They said, if you want to trade through here, you do it on our terms. And the world accepted, because there was no alternative. The Dutch did the same. The British did it on a larger scale. And after World War II, the United States accomplished this globally. Absolute naval dominance, control of straits and canals, logistical infrastructure. Even today, a large portion of global trade still operates under the American military umbrella. This is the first foundation of the dollar. Then comes the second stage, massive trade surpluses. The reserve currency country produces, sells, and the world buys. Wealth flows to the center. Lisbon, Amsterdam, London, New York. Same story every time. During this phase, the population becomes wealthier, state coffers fill up, the future looks bright. The United States experienced this between 1945 and 1970. While the rest of the world lay in ruins, America fed the globe with its factories, its technology, its production. Gold flowed into the US, the dollar spread everywhere. Then a threshold is crossed. This threshold is silent. There is no signpost, no ceremony. But from a historical perspective, it is one of the most critical moments. The world formally, not just practically, accepts your currency as the reserve currency. This is no longer debated. International agreements are written in it, debts are issued in it, commodities are priced in it, central banks fill their vaults with it. This moment is the highest economic peak a country can reach, but here is the painful truth. This peak is also the point where decline begins, because this is where the game changes. The world no longer wants your products. It wants your money. Not your factories, but the paper you print, and at first this feels like an incredible relief. You no longer have to produce. You no longer have to sweat. You no longer have to make hard decisions. Printing money is enough. The world will take it. This is where the Triffin dilemma comes into play. A well-known concept in economic literature, but an uncomfortable one in politics. If you want to be the reserve currency, you must supply liquidity to the world. That means you must run deficits, constantly, permanently. But as those deficits grow, your currency weakens. As your currency weakens, trust erodes. As trust erodes, the system demands even larger deficits. It is a vicious cycle. And when you are inside it, it is hard to see from the outside, and because everything still looks like it's working. Shelves are full, markets are active, people go on with their lives. Then comes the fourth stage. This stage usually goes unnoticed, because it is not dramatic. There is no destruction, no visible crisis. But direction has changed. The shift from production to consumption begins. Hard things are abandoned. Easy options are chosen. Importing becomes more attractive than building factories. Short-term gains replace long-term investment. The spirit of society changes. The question spreads. Why do the hard work? We already have money. Comfort is presented as a virtue. The financial sector grows while production shrinks. Real value creation is pushed aside. Paper gains begin to outweigh the real economy. This is exactly what happened in the United States after the 1970s. Industrial production gradually moved abroad. Factories closed or relocated. Imports increased. Trade surpluses turned into permanent trade deficits. But this was not perceived as a problem, because the system was still functioning. The dollar was still valid, borrowing was still easy, the world still needed dollars. This is where the most dangerous illusion appears. So there is no problem. But there is a problem. It has merely been postponed, and every postponed problem returns later with a higher cost. The fifth stage is inevitable. Deficits become unmanageable. Debt grows. Crises become more frequent. But no one wants to change the system fundamentally, because that means short-term pain, unemployment, lost elections, and instead, there is always an easier option: printing money. History repeats itself here as well. Portugal reduced the silver content of its coins. The coin looked the same, but it was worth less. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The United States used the modern method, quantitative easing. Central bank balance sheets exploded. Trillions of dollars were injected into the system. On paper, this looks like a solution. Markets relax. Crises are postponed. But the cost is paid somewhere invisible. Purchasing power erodes. People recognize this through the word inflation. But that is just a word. What actually happens is the silent devaluation of money. No one takes your money away. But with the same money, you buy less. And those who suffer the most are the ones with the least access to the system. Wage earners, those who hold their savings in cash, those who believe they are safe. And now we are in the sixth stage. This stage does not shout. It does not make headlines, but it tells a lot. It is the slow erosion of trust. No one wakes up one morning and says, "We no longer want the dollar." These systems do not change overnight. Change is quiet. It advances through small decisions. Central banks diversify their reserves. They buy gold. Bilateral trade agreements are signed. The only dollar rule is loosened. China, Russia, the Gulf countries, Asia, each takes small steps based on its own interests. Individually, they seem insignificant. Together, they make the direction clear. And the direction is clear, away from a single absolute center toward a multipolar structure. History tells us this. After the sixth stage comes the seventh, replacement. This can be sudden or gradual, controlled or chaotic, but it always happens. The old reserve currency loses its central role. A new system emerges, sometimes a single currency, sometimes a basket, sometimes a complex and unstable structure. But the common point is this: the old power does not return to its former position. So why does this concern you? Because these processes do not stay on government balance sheets. They do not live only in central bank reports. They reach people's pockets. Savings erode. Labor loses value. Things believed to be safe become risky. Millions of people have lived through this in history, and they all said the same thing afterward. I wish I had seen it earlier. That's why this is not about fear, not panic. It is about awareness, accepting that we are inside a historical cycle. Understanding not that the dollar will disappear, but that it will lose its privilege as the absolute center, and acting accordingly, smart, balanced, calm steps. This story has happened 4 times before. The same scenes, different actors. Now the dollar is on stage, and the curtain has not fallen yet. The play is not over, but the lights are slowly changing. The tone of the stage is shifting. There will be those who don't want to see it. There will be those who say, "This time is different." There always have been. But history is written not by intentions, but by outcomes. And outcomes usually whisper first, then they shout. Right now, they are still whispering. History is telling us the truth. Subscribe, and I will show you where to look on this path.